안녕하세요. My name is Pablo. I'm the first secretary here at the Permanent Observer Mission of the Sovereign Order of Malta to the UN in New York.
And I'm Alex. I'm the executive assistant to the ambassador here.
So Pablo, can you provide us with more background on how you ended up with the mission of the Order of Malta and what inspired you to work with the Sovereign Order of Malta?
So I've been affiliated with the Order of Malta since I was in school. When I was 17 was when I first volunteered with the Order of Malta. I volunteered with the British Association of the Order of Malta. And they run a number of volunteering trips, both in the UK and in other countries. And I did that in France, I did that in the UK, I did that also in Lebanon. After I finished university, I knew that I wanted to work in diplomacy, and I had some familiarity, of course, with the Order of Malta, and I was aware that they had this mission here at the UN in New York. Both things kind of meshed well together, and that's how I ended up in New York.
Okay, so the question that I'm having, and probably the students back in my university would be having, is like we rarely heard about the name Sovereign Order of Malta. Can you provide us with a basic overview of what this organization is, the Sovereign Order of Malta?
So the Sovereign Order of Malta, what is it? That's a very big question, and the truth is that it's a lot of things. So originally it was set up over 900 years ago in Jerusalem in the Holy Land, and it was set up as the first sort of hospitalers, meaning they were the first community that was set up to provide healthcare to the region where they were first set up. It's through history it maintained its mission and eventually continued expanding. And it got attention from the church in Rome, from the Vatican, from the Pope, and they eventually became the rulers of the island of Rhodes, which is nowadays present Greece, and also Malta. So that's how they ended up being called the Order of Malta. And they ruled Malta for about 300 years until Malta was taken over by Napoleon in the late 1700s. And the order, although it lost its land, it lost its territory, it became a government in exile in Rome, which is where it is today, headquartered. And although it lost its territory, it still remained under international law a sovereign entity, meaning it still functions in many ways the same way a country does. Nowadays, its primary role is providing humanitarian support, humanitarian aid in all regions of the world. So the Order of Malta has a presence in virtually every continent, and it provides humanitarian support, as I mentioned. It provides disaster relief. It collaborates with the governments that it has a dialogue with in providing hospitals and all sorts of humanitarian and healthcare support. But because it's also an international sovereign entity under international law, it also still maintains diplomatic relations with a lot of countries. I think at the moment it's over 114, somewhere along those lines. So it means that the order itself has embassies in all of the countries where it has diplomatic ties with. And in 1994, it was invited by the United Nations General Assembly to become an observer at the UN. And that's what this mission here in New York is. We are the diplomatic mission of the order to the United Nations.
Okay. Well, that's a pretty impressive representation. Yeah, I'm actually surprised you've memorized all of it.
Well, I've been to so many bilaterals with the ambassador, and he's explained that so many times.
Yeah. Okay, so we're here in New York, so it's very different from working in other international organizations or any organizations based outside of New York. And since we're all coming outside of the States, I wonder if Alex could provide us with how it feels like living in a totally different country and a city where it's called the city out of all places. I want you to provide any tips or any advice or any personal thoughts on living in this New York City.
Okay, so I just a bit of background, I originally was on another internship program to come out here and work in New York. And then I wanted to stay out here, so that's how I sort of transitioned into this current role at Mission. But in terms of moving to New York, obviously it is a big jump, especially with different cultural differences and things like that. But it is just like any city really. I would say that it's maybe a bit more fast-paced than other cities, especially in like the working environments and the working world. I'd say that's probably the main difference to like working elsewhere. Everything just moves at a crazy rate.
And what about, how do you feel about working with people from diverse backgrounds? Have you ever had any experience that you thought you wouldn't have back in London?
I would say for me personally, it was it's been a great experience. Obviously London's very multicultural as a city anyway, and so in comparison it almost feels very familiar for me, and I definitely think that learning about other people's cultures and where they come from and their backgrounds is super interesting. I actually live in a house with a load of people from different backgrounds in different parts of Britain and Europe, so it's just really nice just to like share your experiences and get to know other people like that, and learn about just the world, the wider world.
Okay, so Pablo, what does the mission of the Order of Malta to the UN prioritize in doing? What areas do we focus on in the United Nations that we want to really speak out loud about?
Well, the Order's mission here at the UN is in quite a unique position. As I mentioned earlier, we're an observer mission, which means that we don't have the same rights as perhaps some of the member states that form part of the United Nations. So, for example, we're not entitled to vote in the General Assembly. However, that definitely doesn't mean that we're not, or that we are. They're very limited in terms of what we can get involved in and what we can participate in at the UN. So obviously, given the Order's primary humanitarian focus, our mission here follows everything to do with humanitarian issues. So that the primary committee that we follow from the General Assembly is the third committee, which is social and humanitarian issues. So during September, for example, when all the committees of the General Assembly start again for the new year, the Order's mission delivers a lot of statements at a lot of the third committee sessions, and this can range from a whole variety of issues in the humanitarian field. So we talk a lot about our work with refugees, which we do in a lot of different countries. We talk about the rights of people, of civilians in armed conflict. We talk about issues relating to climate change and how it affects populations in different ways. So it's a really wide range of activities and topics that we get involved in. Additionally, we follow the work of the Security Council very closely. Of course, that's where anything related to conflict in the UN is discussed. And it's a very important part of our mission here because we follow the meetings closely, we take notes on what each member state has to say or whatever organization is participating in the Security Council. And then we write reports that we send back to our headquarters in Rome, but also to our humanitarian missions themselves in the field, in the countries where the conflicts are happening. So oftentimes, the Order of Malta will be involved in providing humanitarian support in ongoing conflicts. So one example at the moment is Ukraine. The Order has a very big presence in Ukraine, supporting both internally displaced persons, people who have lost everything and need humanitarian support, and additionally refugees in neighboring countries. So it's very important for the Order and its missions in the field to have up-to-date information on everything that's happening, when it comes to the states or the parties involved. So it's partly our responsibility to make sure that everyone who's involved is up to date.
Since we're working in a pretty diplomatic setting, we would expect that what we do in the mission would be like really professional, really articulated in a formal way. So how is the work environment in the mission? How does it feel like?
I would say that obviously with the presence that we have and the people that we're talking to like on a day-to-day basis, there's definitely like a high level of professionalism that's required. But one really nice thing, especially because of sort of the size of the office and the team here, is that it's very familial and very like cozy and friendly, and we all get along really, really well, which is really nice. And you definitely know that you're just working with really great people, and also just working alongside them so closely, like you really get to know each other. So I definitely say that even sort of despite how sort of it needs to be presented, we like do really get along really well, and it's not super like professional every single second of the day. It's a really nice place to work, and yeah, I can say that.
The potential future Korean interns who might get interested in working for the mission here, they're gonna take a big step. They're gonna be in a totally different city all by themselves. They're going to be faced with challenges, especially working in a foreign setting. Career-wise, what are the biggest takeaways from this mission?
I think an internship here at the mission really is a fantastic opportunity to develop a number of different skills, and the great thing about it as well is that these are definitely transferable for a number of different careers, whether you end up working in diplomacy long term or not, so that's definitely a huge plus. You have the opportunity to enhance note-taking skills, for example, how to write reports, how things need to be formatted in a professional setting, and also how to engage with different types of people within a professional setting. You know, there's one thing about the UN here especially is, you know, there's a lot of high level people that you'll end up interacting with, well, even as an intern. So it's a fantastic opportunity to learn how to manage people's your interactive skills with a wide range of people. So I think that's definitely something very valuable for any career. Another fantastic thing about an internship like this one is that being based at the UN headquarters, there's always a wide range of professionals from all types of industries that you'll very likely interact with, whether that's a side event at the UN itself or something that the mission is involved in. So there's people coming in the circle that you'll be in from all sorts of areas within the private sector. So it's a great opportunity to make contacts and to learn about certain industries. And it's a great way to perhaps even learn about opportunities that you didn't know were possible, or industries you might not have been interested in before. But through hearing about people's experiences and the type of work they do, whether it's in a diplomatic setting or not, it's definitely a great opportunity to help you narrow down perhaps what you want to do in your professional path.
Mm-hmm. Sort of going off of what Pablo said, I would say that one of the skills that you'll really develop is sort of your adaptability. Coming from sort of education, everything's laid out for you. You know what you're working towards. You know what classes you have. You know what exams you're like working towards and everything like that. And so coming into a situation where everything's constantly changing, everything's moving really quickly, it will just help you to develop the ability and sort of capability to organise yourself and manage your time, so that if things do arise that you're not expecting, or everything breaks loose and you need to adapt and be ready to respond to that sort of demand, then yeah, that is very much a good sort of way to learn that, because that's the only thing that you'll really develop firsthand and know how to then deal with yourself. So yeah, I'd say that that's a massive takeaway, and obviously that's very transferable to whatever job you're in, whatever industry you want to go into. And I'd say that moving abroad even expands on that, because you're learning how to navigate life in New York, and it's probably very different culturally. So there's a whole sort of range of different skills that sort of come within that. And yeah, I'd say that's probably one of the biggest takeaways.
So to wrap up this interview, do you have any useful tips or a word of advice for future potential Korean interns?
One piece of advice is just to be sort of open-minded to everything that you're coming across. Obviously it's different culturally, it's a different working environment, and it's probably a lot of the things you're going to be doing are going to be very, very new. So just be open-minded. I would also say be patient with yourself, because it's not going to be really, really easy. You're not going to get it right every single time. You're not going to get it right for the beginning. To be honest, it will be a massive learning curve in so many different ways. Also, sort of navigating a new like city and everything like that. Yeah, so I would just say be patient, be respectful to yourself and others, and yeah, that's the advice I'd say.
Yeah. And I think if you don't know what to expect, that's completely fine as well, because I think you'll almost certainly be very pleasantly surprised with how diverse and how dynamic this position is, and the range of things that you'll be involved in and contributing to. And I think, yeah, it's definitely worth telling yourself that it's definitely something you can get involved in. I think it's it can be intimidating perhaps if you're completely new to it, but I think if you have an open mind and if you have no particular expectations, you'll definitely succeed, and yeah, you have so much to contribute.